Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Lead Champ Pro call. We have a short but powerful call for you guys today talking about all of the different lead types. So I will go over some announcements and promos and things like that at the end, but I want to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. I think all of you guys know them, love them. Josh Lockhart, Jamie Cheerio, the guys that built Lead Champ, both agents in the field and building agencies and building this product for all of us here to be able to automate our business and really get more done in less time, be more efficient every single day. And we get questions all the time about what type of leads should I load in the system? Where should I use these leads? What leads should I be calling? And so today's call is all about lead types, but I will go ahead and bring Josh and Jamie up here.
Jamie, yeah, today want to talk about leads. So I a few things. Number one, when you're recruiting somebody, Jamie, how many times has somebody asked you what kind of leads you guys have? And it's like, I mean, there's a zillion types of leads under the sun. We have access to them all. So it's a bit of a good lead, bad lead. What does that even mean? And then also from a lead champ perspective, I think sometimes people get really attached to their leads. They're like, I only run this kind of lead from this place, and your thing has to work for this. And at some point, we've all been taught a lead is a lead is a lead, and if you're worth your salt as an agent, like you can get on the phone and make it happen. With that said, right, like they're not all equal. They don't act alike. They all have different characteristics of how you should approach them. And you just can't say the same thing in the same way to every single one of them and expect the same results. So, like, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Anything that you want to mention before we jump right into it, Jamie?
Yeah, just keeping with the dad analogy here, if you have kids, like just the lead space is kind of like reading your kid one of those choose your own adventure books. Like, oh, do you want to do final expense? Turn to page 9. Oh, you want to do inbounds? Turn to page 12. Like, there's so many different directions that you can go, and there's all of like the nuances of like, oh, it's not the lead, it's the agent. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, if you give me enough of any lead. And if you said, hey, your family's in the back of a van kidnapped, and if you don't call these, you know, crumpled up pieces of paper with some phone numbers on it and sell some life insurance or go to the Walmart parking, like I'm going to sell some insurance, like if I have to. But there also is a better way. There are more efficient lead types. Grady taught me in the beginning something called the time money pendulum. On one side, you have time, on one side, you have money. And this works like 99% of the time. If there's always nuances to where like it doesn't always perfectly line up. But in the beginning, when you're first getting started as an agent, you typically have a lot of time and not a lot of money. Therefore, you buy cheap leads in high volume, and they require you to spend a lot of time trying to get a hold of them to get an appointment, to convert somebody, whatever that is. And then as you move on in this business, you start to earn some commissions. I don't want to say you have a lot of money, but you've got more money than you have when you first got started, and you can buy back some of that time. And that's when you start buying like higher intent leads. So that's where like we get into real-time leads, and we'll talk about some of those things. But at the end of the day, typically the more expensive the lead, and again, this does not always line up, but typically the more expensive the lead, the more recent it was generated, and typically the higher intent that lead is. And if the lead has a higher intent, meaning they were recently interested, they're probably going to pick up the phone or answer a text message. So that's kind of where I want to start. And we can kind of jump into like different lead types, and then we can get into like age versus real time.
Yeah, well, let's just kind of lay out like the main broad types. Obviously, we're not talking about product types. Maybe you love final expense, mortgage section, IUL, annuity leads. There's like all kinds of different product type leads. We're not talking about that. We're talking about so there could be a social media lead, right? That's typically going to be Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, or it could be, TikTok or Google, right? But like something on social media, and I'm kind of lumping Google into social media, you know it's a of sorts, right? And then you're going to have from there you're going to have data leads, right? We used to call these internet leads. A data lead could be think like a ethos abandoned cart lead, right? They didn't opt in to they didn't opt in and go, hey, yeah, somebody contact me for a quote or information. They went on the website to buy, didn't necessarily find what they were looking for, and now somebody's coming behind to, to reach out to them. And so sometimes that can be an interesting call. And other data lead types, right? Like they went on a site looking for something, and now that's generated as a lead. And so when you call them, they're like, well, I didn't ask anybody to call me. But there's value in that. And, we've sold tons and tons of insurance on that. But like, how do you approach that? Then there's going to be mail leads, which, somebody feels out a piece of mail, could be mortgage protection, final expense. There's going to be call-in leads, which holds a special place in Jamie and I's heart. And then I guess the last would be inbound. Okay. And then from there you have new versus aged. All right. So looking at it from that perspective, I think there's what does that look like to call this person? And then when you put them inside of a system like LeadChamp and text them, just because you're texting them, sometimes people are like, oh man, I put my leads in there and they're not responding like I think they should respond. So maybe the words need to be changed so they'll respond better. And it's like, well, maybe, garbage in, garbage out, and you just have some old leads that, filled out a napkin 2 years ago with ketchup and mustard on it and it said free. So, we got to know what we're putting in there. So kind of with that premise, Jamie, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, let's just start. I think what people know. I mean, let's talk about social media leads because those can be generated a handful of different ways. So, I mean, even just like on the broadest level of Facebook, like that's probably what most people are going to be most familiar with. There are so many different levels of quality that you can get for a Facebook lead, and then also like I can even break this down a little bit further. And I guess this doesn't just apply to Facebook, but you've got, buy per lead, or you've got some sort of a management deal. So I could name, not 100, about a dozen vendors that are doing some form of either a, hey, we'll run your Facebook ads for you, your Google ads for you, your YouTube ads for you, whatever, or hey, this lead costs $42 and buy a pack of 20, buy a pack of 30, buy a pack of 40. And some of this might seem like, elementary to some of you guys, but we're just going to break it all down. So we're going to reuse this video later. Um, like a buy per lead, what you're doing is you're paying the retail price and the lead vendor is making a small profit off of selling it to you. Whereas with a management fee, you are paying the lead vendor, 500 bucks, 1,000 bucks, 1,500 bucks a month to manage your Facebook ad, and then you get all of your leads at cost. What ends up happening is um, there's predictability in both, but just in different ways. So when you do buy per lead, you are going to have a predictable lead cost every single time, unless they obviously change the cost. But what happens is you can have, let's say, a $42 lead that's going really well. They're charging you $42, but the quality isn't always predictable. The cost is predictable, but the quality isn't always predictable. Then, when you do more of a management fee, I've got my $1,000 that I'm paying to XYZ company to manage my ad. I'm watching the lead cost do this. I'm watching the lead. Someday I'm paying $100 a lead, another day I'm paying $5 a lead, and everything in between. But a lot of the time, when you're doing a management type of a deal, the quality stays about the same. So that's one thing to consider because, a lead vendor, they have to make money. And they're going to make money one of two ways. Either they're going to collect their guaranteed money of, hey, it's $1,000 a month for me to manage your ads, and I'm going to make no money on your ad spend, or I'm going to make money on the ad spend and I'm going to charge a retail price. And underneath it all, like the lead vendor's making money, not making money, making money, not making money. So what's happening is they're running, their A and their B ads. So like the A ads are the highest intent type ads. And then as soon as the lead cost climbs up too high, close to what you're paying, they turn on kind of like the B ads, which are going to be more of like a more of a clickbait. I mean, and I'm just being general here, more of a clickbaity something. Maybe it's not a video, now it's a picture. Maybe it's a, get $4 million worth of life insurance for $62, type of a thing that gets more people to click to bring the cost down. And they're just turning ads on, turning ads off. So on the front end, you're basically going to pay retail, or you're going to buy things, you're going to get it at cost. If you buy retail, your cost will stay the same, but your quality is going to go up and down. And if you get it at cost by doing a management fee, your quality will probably stay the same, but you'll notice underneath that like the speed at which your leads come in, the cost of your lead, like is going to go up and down like crazy. Does that make sense, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then if we come back to now just like Facebook leads in general, now we've got is this a landing page lead or is this a Facebook Instaform lead? So difference is, an instant form lead is it doesn't require them to leave the app of Facebook. This is where you're going to get more like Facebook autofill type stuff. This is where you'll likely get, a higher quality lead for a cheaper price because there's less friction. Anytime that you create more friction in a process, you're always going to have a higher lead cost. So the best way to get the highest volume lead on Facebook is to have something where it's on a Facebook form because it doesn't require them to ever leave the Facebook app, doesn't require them to open a website, a browser. A lot of times it doesn't even require them to have to fill anything in. It's literally pulling their name off of Facebook. It's pulling the phone number and the email that they signed up for Facebook with, you know, I signed up for Facebook in 2007. And anytime that I fill out one of these things, it pulls up like a very old email. So that's where sometimes you're going to get, disconnected phone number, email that doesn't work, that kind of stuff. Then you go landing page. Well, landing page requires them to now click a link, be redirected to something, fill out a new form. So typically landing pages are higher cost per lead, typically higher quality just because it has that one extra level of friction. And then the last little nuance here is are they OTP verified? Which a lot of vendors are starting to do this one-time password. So where they go to fill out the form and it sends them a text message with a six-digit code before they're able to go ahead and submit that. That guarantees that they have a phone number that has the ability to be texted. If they're not OTP verified, then it's just kind of a mixed bag. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if the phone number is going to be disconnected, if they're going to put in a random phone number, any of that. When it's OTP verified, if you have the ability to do that, it's going to be a higher cost as well because it's another level of friction. But again, with every level of friction that is put into any form, whether it is Facebook, YouTube, Google, because again, if it's Facebook lead, Instagram lead, they're either going to fill out an Insta form or they're going to go to a landing page. If it's Google or YouTube, it's basically guaranteed to be a landing page. But just in general, it's some social media where they filled out a form. And if it has a one-time password on it, you're going to guarantee the phone number is going to be correct, that you can text them. And, again, every single layer of friction is going to increase the quality of the lead, but it's also going to drive the cost of the lead up. Anything I left out there, Josh?
No, no, that's good. So like from a user perspective, somebody here listening, right? And they're like, well, this vendor says, we got the best leads. That vendor says that we got the best leads. And then like, now from a perspective of we get to see, XYZ vendor with XYZ lead, this one they respond back at, 35%, and this one responds back at 5%, right? So if I'm looking for lead vendors and I know it's going to be some kind of social media lead, like let's say it's final expense or mortgage protection, right? Just keeping it simple. Like what should I be looking for?
Well, I mean, these are also like, again, it's just if you know how they set it up, you can just have proper expectations as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying like there's a place for Facebook instant form leads, like with no OTP, because I just want volume. I want to get as many people as possible. Um, but I think these are good questions to ask your vendor. If you are having a conversation with a vendor, so you kind of know, ahead of time what the lead's experience is, so that you're not kind of caught out of left field when you have it. If you have a disconnected phone number, it's not as big of a deal if you know that it wasn't OTP. But if you have a disconnected phone number and the vendor says it's OTP, be like, hey, Mr. Vendor, what's going on here? I thought you said this was OTP. I got 10 phone numbers here that are disconnected.
Yeah, I would say like, if you're putting leads in a lead champion, you're getting if it's a new lead in less than 10, like if you put in, 100 leads and less than 10 respond, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I even am generous. Like, they might respond and say, like, I hate you. Don't ever call me again. That's still a response, right? Versus like landlines, bad numbers, etc. So yeah, anything less than 10% is a real problem. It's going to damage your number, which, today that might not be a big deal, but like then you go to your next lead source and they're not responding. And now like it seems like the walls are crushing in and really your number is damaged. And so you want to take a look at that. And a good point to measure, right? Sometimes it's like, well, is the lead, is it me, is it this, is it that? But, again, if you put in 100 and they're just not responding via text, like that is a signal that maybe I should consider what I'm, the source that I'm doing. And feel free to ask us, right? We see a lot of great lead vendors that, through text, 30, 35%, sometimes 40%. And then we see a lot that are like, sub 20%. And, that's problematic. And that could just mean that they're really cheap. And that's, if you're okay with that and that gives you peace of mind, okay. And then also some people are chasing the highest intent lead. I want to get the absolute highest intent lead. And sometimes that is also, like chasing your tail, chasing the whale with something that, could change on a dime. And so what I'd submit to everybody is be nimble. Don't get married to any one thing, right? Date your lead vendor, don't marry them. God love them, and we'll share a few that are working really, really well for people right now. And sometimes we get lead vendors that want to partner with us, and we're open to anything, but at the same time, we say, well, hey, we're going to share what the numbers are. And so if your numbers are terrible, we're going to let people know the numbers are terrible. So that's social media leads. Look out for, hey, are these OTP? Is it generated off a landing page, right? If you're paying $20 a lead and they say, um, these are landing page OTP, super duper everything. It's like, maybe not. But at the same token, right, once you get up to past $50 a lead on anything, like you really have to have a good reason why that is. Especially if, the response rate is not great. All right. Real quick on let's breeze by data leads real fast, Jamie. One thing I would say on those, well, let's just, a lot of people do ethos abandoned cart leads, right? It's a lead type, and people do make a lot of sales. I would say it's a great one call close lead, but like, what are the characteristics of a data lead?
Yeah, I mean, a data lead could be anything like that. It could also be somebody who was actually like typing in like life insurance quotes on Google and they filled out like 10 forms. And like a data lead is something that gets sold multiple times to multiple places. So that's where like a lot of the times you do have agents that are calling them from all over the place. So one thing I do want to make sure that I was, just this is more of like a training on the phone dialing type of a thing is you want to make sure that when you're calling these leads, you are putting yourself in the customer's shoes of what their experience is. So if I'm working data leads, I'm working right into my script like, hey, Elise, this is Jamie. Your phone's probably blowing up with telemarketers right now. You're looking for quotes on life insurance. It's probably super annoying. I'm one of the managers calling. If I'm calling a mortgage protection lead, like, hey, that thing that was in your mailbox, hey, you were just on my Facebook page a couple of minutes ago. Like, I'm always trying to look at like, if it's we'll talk about calling leads. Hey, that thing that came in the mail that had a phone number and you called into it. Like I'm always trying to think of what is the customer's experience, not just like this is mortgage protection, this is final expense. It's like how did they fill it out? How did they hear about it? How did we get here? Because that's going to help. So with the data leads specifically, their experience is kind of rough. So it's like you have to be willing and be very nimble here with that. So this is again somebody who clicked on something, they put in their first name, last name, phone number, or this is somebody who was like trying to get a Costco gift card and they're like, "Hey, if you were interested in life insurance, what kind would you be interested in to get your Costco gift card?" And then like you just have to know that like that's what's coming with data leads. You're gonna get high volume, but like a lot of times you get people who have no idea what the heck you were talking about. So data leads do require you, in my personal opinion, to be a little bit more slick on the phone, a little bit quicker. They require you to be just like if we're talking objections, like if we're playing the, who can overcome the objections the best game, like you're gonna crush it with data leads. It's like data leads will train you to be like a insurance ninja. And if you can crush it on data leads, as soon as you get a real-time lead, you're like, oh my gosh, there's no objections. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Anything you'd add to that, Josh?
Well, yeah, slick on the phone is a good way to put it. And what you can't do is you can't be slick over text, right?
Mhm.
Like I heard somebody say, you're never gonna, the last time you got in an argument with a friend or your partner over text, like there's no good that's gonna come out of it. You can't win an argument over text, right? And the same thing's gonna happen with texting somebody that's like, who are you? What in the world did I,
You're
like
gonna get a lot of who dis.
who dis? Yes, verbatim. And you can so through text, it tends to be very straightforward. This is who I am. This is what you're look UIL. Perfect. Yes, exactly. You know what we're talking about, Elise. So that's data leads. I wouldn't, can you sell on them? Yes, we all have. Should you have super high expectations for response rate and booking rate over text? No, you should not. But over the course of, if they're getting, a text here and there over the next 3 to 6 months, you might have some come through there. So you just got to manage your
Yeah.
expectations.
One thing I just want to throw in before we move on to the next lead type is just everything is kind of like a means to an end. Like we'll talk about kind of like what the goal is, like where we should be trying to get to, but it's like if it comes down to it and it's like I can't pay my mortgage and my kids are about to be out on the street, like give me any lead. Like it doesn't matter. I don't care if my phone number is getting marked as spam. I will try texting them. I will try calling them. I will do whatever it takes. Back in the day, we literally used to go to their house and knock on their door. So, it doesn't really matter what lead. So, all right. So we've got social media leads, we've got data leads, mail, and then we've got call-ins and inbounds. So, Josh, I know you got to hop here in a second. So let's do inbounds and I can handle the rest.
Yeah, so inbounds, I mean, we had a whole video last week with the great Sheila Day and Quentin Kelly who, are crushing on inbounds. We have other people that are Eric Schmidt. I mean, he's absolutely crushing it on inbounds right now. And so that's just, somebody is calling, either getting live transfer, that's maybe a different thing, but they're calling you directly going, "Hey, I just saw something on social media and I am interested," which is great. So you kind of bypass, you're paying for appointments, you're not paying for leads. Because as soon as they call, you're in the appointment. And it's really great, especially, you know, let's just say what it is, right? Some people are like, "I hate dialing. I don't want to dial." And it's like you kind of have a built-in dialer, so to speak. However, I will say that if somebody is just like, "Hey, I can call and get a quote," you get them a policy. What are they probably going to do? The next thing that they see, they're probably going to call and get another quote just to see if your quote that they bought was actually real. And so, Quentin Kelly told me the other day, he's like, I would not do inbounds without lead champ just because like I want to make sure those policies stick and communicate. And he posted something in the chat today. Somebody emailed him back and is giving him referrals, ERN, that kind of thing. And so what's like if it's really easy to sign somebody up, it's really easy for the next agent to sign them up. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do it. You should just go above and beyond to solidify the sale, get referrals, expand your book of business, expand your offerings.
Yeah. My hill I'll die on with inbounds is if you're a new agent, you will go broke selling inbounds. And I'm not telling you what you can and can't do because I think anybody in this business can figure it out. But just like anything, you have to practice. And, with riding a bike, you got training wheels, or, my kid never did training wheels. He had one of those little Strider bikes. And then now, he's riding his bike with pedals. But like, if you jump directly to inbounds, you're just going to spend a lot of money that doesn't need to be spent because you're not going to close the things that you should be closing. So my final thing on inbounds is just going to be like, once you have a proven closing rate, inbounds can become more predictable. Like I think inbounds are great, but if you don't have a predictable closing rate where you are going to be closing what you should be closing, you're gonna lose some sales that you should be getting, and you're not going to be as profitable as you could be. So you'll notice that the agents that we mentioned, we had Sheila and Quentin, who are both veteran agents. Eric Schmidt, veteran agent. Eric Schmidt had 45 sales last month for 66 grand on inbounds. Okay. Like he's closing the things he should be closing. So inbounds are great, but I typically recommend, some level of build up before you decide to go all in on that. Because it is, again, you're paying for appointments and, with anything else, we start out again, time, money, pendulum. Eric, Quentin, Sheila, just those three names. They've been doing this for a while, so they know that they have confidence that if they spend their money on something that's as high as intent as it basically can be, someone calling in, that they know that they can turn that and turn it into good ROI. Talk about mortgage mail, and we're going to talk about call-in leads now. So specifically, mortgage mail and call-ins, they're kind of synonymous because a lot of the times, I don't know if I even know of like a call-in lead that's not a mortgage lead. I'm sure there's something. But when it comes to direct mail, there's all kinds of direct mail. You've got final expense direct mail, you've got mortgage direct mail, etc. But this is like a dead and dying breed. There are some people who are still doing it. It's really, really expensive. I know you can do, buy per lead, or you can do, buy per, 1,000 pieces of mail that get sent out. So sometimes you'll pay, a few cents, per piece of mail that go out, and someone will send out 1,000 or 2,000 mailers to a list. And whatever comes back comes back. Or, I remember when I first got started, mortgage mailers were like 20 bucks a piece, 30 bucks a piece, and now they're like 100 bucks a piece. So like mail just in general, it's a harder thing, but it is a very high intent lead. It's about as high intent as you can go when somebody takes a piece of paper out of their mailbox and they take out a pen and they write their information on it and they walk back out to their mailbox and they put that little flag up, and then somebody comes to their mailbox and picks it up and takes it back, and then they send a picture of it to you and you pay for it. I don't know how much more high intent that you can get than that. Again, very hard to get, very hard to be profitable with right now because they are so expensive. I can think of like 3 times in my entire life that I've ever put the little flag up on my mailbox. One was like my kid like has a pen pal, and the other was like I was sending a check to a carrier for debt that doesn't accept debit cards and credit cards for some reason. You still have to send them a check if you know you know. But like other than that, like I don't think I've ever filled out something and put it back in my mailbox. So with those are great leads where when you call somebody, hey, Josh, it was that thing that you filled out that came in your mailbox that you took out a pen and paper and you wrote your name and your date of birth on about the mortgage protection. Oh yeah, 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 I remember that. In general, those are once you get somebody on the phone, pretty high intent. But again, getting somebody to answer, with Lead Champ specifically, we don't have a great way for you to like take the PDF of that mailer. We used to like text people pictures of the mailer to show them their handwriting. We don't really have a great way of you doing that in an automated way. So like when I first got started, I was doing mortgage protection leads direct mail, and I was putting them into a mortgage campaign, and then I was going back through like 5, 10 leads at a time as they would come in each day, and I would literally take a picture of their mailer and I would manually send it to them, and then they would respond to the automation, and we'd go from there. So direct mail, that's obviously an option. And then call-in leads. Call-in leads, just in general, really grind my gears. I think you can make a lot of money off of them. However, a call-in lead, especially a mortgage lead, is very bait and switch. I'm not, again, I've made a lot of money off of call-in leads, but like the difference is when you do a direct mail lead for mortgage, it's literally like this big, like mortgage protection, pay off your house if you pass away or become sick or disabled. Fill out the information below, and an agent will get back with you. A call-in lead is like, here's a red piece of paper that says there's a problem with your mortgage, call this phone number. And if they call the phone number, they can either stay on the phone and they can do the whole survey. And so they would call them like, silver or gold. There's all kinds of different, I don't know all the different, names for them, but like a silver would be considered like they called in and they basically hung up and didn't finish the survey. And then a gold was someone who like called in and finished the whole survey and they said, okay, an agent will be getting back with you. So whenever you'd get like a gold call in, you'd know like this person actually knows why I'm calling. You do like a silver call in, you're like, hey, this is Jamie getting back to you about mortgage protection. I didn't ask for mortgage protection. I just thought there was something wrong with my mortgage. So again, like it's kind of like a data lead from the perspective of they didn't know it was mortgage protection. They thought there was a problem with their mortgage. Again, like our goal is to get people on the phone with us. So like between a data lead and a call-in lead, they both require you to be a little bit more slick on the phone. Your transitions to be a little bit better. Again, these are leads that will get people in front of you, but they're not always leads that are the highest intent. Now, you can take somebody from not interested to interested. I'm not talking about going to the Walmart parking lot and being like, hey, you want some life insurance? Like, that's like they were not interested. Going door to door, like, hey, you want me to put some solar panels on your house? Like, again, you have to be slick to take someone from truly not interested to interested. However, again, this is like the beauty of life insurance and leads. We've laid out all these lead types, and we're not here to sit here and be like, oh, one lead type is better than the other. But that training piece that I talked about, if you can get good at talking with the client from their shoes on what their experience was and how they filled out whatever they filled out, you're going to have a much better experience being able to convert that into an appointment. So even if it is a call-in lead, Like if you call a call-in lead, like I noticed this one really early on in my career. If you call a call-in lead and you go, hey, this is about that piece of mail that you filled out and sent back in about the mortgage protection. I didn't fill anything out. They hang up on you. Hey, Sheila, this is that piece of mail that you got that talked about your mortgage that had a phone number on it that you called me, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's different. Like the difference of you got this thing in the mail and you filled it out and you sent it back in versus, hey, you got that thing in the mail, there's a phone number on it. You called the phone number because you were confused, and that's how we're talking. Like, so no matter what it is, like if I'm getting with a lead vendor, I want to know what's the experience. What is the journey of the lead? That's kind of where we're building up to, guys. What's the journey of the lead through this entire thing? Because this is going to help you convert. Now, there are certain leads that are convert better via text than others. We're not going to go deep down that rabbit hole right now. I'll tell you what the ultimate, thing is that we should be working towards. But no matter what your lead type is, like don't have shame in like what it is. Like let's be flexible and try different things. But whatever you got, if you want to get the most out of the leads that you currently have, if you can do a really good job when you get on the phone, when we're talking about dialing of walking the client through whatever their experience was when they filled the thing out, they're going to be more open to stay on the phone with you just for 1 second longer. If you can keep on the phone for 1 second longer, that can be the difference between booking an appointment or not booking an appointment. Transitioning them from, hey, this will take about 10 minutes and them hanging up on you to like, okay, yeah, I'll go grab a pen. Like it's those little things that build trust because again, like something. Like it's like when you're like, hey, I'm getting back with you about the thing. That's the one where you put down your date of birth is blank, your email is this. Like all of these things are to bring it back to the top of their mind. So like one extra thing you can do is if you can highlight their experience of how that lead was generated, that will help you keep that person on the phone just a little bit longer to give you a fighting chance. Now, the last thing, just in general, where we should be working towards, and we're going to talk just about where the world is going in general. Man, so April 29th, 2026, at the shooting of this video. Back 2 years ago in April, I remember that there was a rumor that at the end of 2024, there was a ruling that was going to come down that said that insurance agents weren't going to be able to work age leads anymore. There's something called one-to-one consent. Now, at the end of 2024, there was a court case that happened around one-to-one consent, and they basically kicked the can. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no, but they did not make a decision. And I remember there was all kinds of social media insurance gurus all over the place. One-to-one consent, aged leads are dead. You're screwed if you work aged leads. You have to buy my real-time leads. And it was just a fancy marketing to get you to go buy leads from that vendor a lot of times. Everyone said the sky was falling, buy our leads. That's something that they did kick the can on. Nobody has talked about it for a long time, but it is something that at some point is probably going to come back around. Right now, everything's still good. Everything's fine, but at some point it's coming back around. I sent Josh a reel last night of a guy from one of the more popular dialer companies, power dialers, and he was talking about how Apple has released a new patch that if you are doing double dial type behavior to Apple devices, no longer at the carrier level, which is like Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, Apple level, which is crazy. That's like one level higher. They're going to start blocking things at the Apple level. Like we're already starting to see it at the carrier level with text messages and things, but the Apple level, if they see Sheila from her iPhone triple dials a bunch of people, they're going to block Sheila's device from calling other Apple devices. Like this is what's coming. Again, it's not all here, but this is what's coming. So like our job is about to get harder. So if our job's about to get harder, we have to number one get better. Like best business ever, all the things. Like we get an appointment, we know that this is the best business ever. But our job is going to get a little bit more difficult over the next coming years of what it's going to take to book those appointments. So this is where the value of inbounds is starting to come in. People calling you, that's positive. And then real-time leads in general. So I understand that not everyone can afford the retail price of a real-time lead, but what is a real-time lead at its core? A real-time lead is a one-to-one lead. Like we're talking about one-to-one consent. What is one-to-one consent? This is what this whole court case was all about, which is I fill out a form, and at some point, I'm going to have one agent call me about this form. I'm not going to have 20 agents call me about this form. This lead is not going to be resold a bunch of times. The one-to-one consent is going to require that when they fill out the form, it's going to be like, Elise Sophie is going to be calling you. Like it's going to get to that point. It's not there yet, but that's what one-to-one consent truly is. So a real-time lead, when you're working with a vendor, I know a lot of our vendors still do sell aged leads, but at least in the beginning, like if I've got this lead for 30, 60, 90 days, unless the client went and filled out 20 forms, I should be the only person calling them from that form that was generated. I should be. So, in general, real-time leads are they can be the most expensive, but they also are the highest intent. Now, there's lots of vendors out there, and I'll give a plug to a couple of them that have been doing really well inside of our system right now. But the goal obviously is if you go higher intent, spend more money, you're going to have lower volume. And then if you want to have high volume, you're typically going to have lower intent. That's the pendulum swing. So the more expensive the lead, the less of them you're going to get. And the less expensive the lead, the more you're going to get. And the less intent there's going to be. Now, two vendors, I'm just going to shout out two. I could shout out a dozen, but two that have been performing really, really well inside of Lead Champ from a response rate perspective. What you do with the response rate's up to you. But response rate being two things. One is going to be your AI booking appointments for you, and then the other is going to be, you booking appointments. So I'm not necessarily shouting out this particular lead vendor, but my personal, lead vendor I get my trucker leads from, I have about a 50% response rate. That doesn't mean 50% of people are responding to text messages. Only about 25% are responding to text messages. The other 25% are booked over the phone. We're calling and we're booking an appointment. If we take the appointments booked over the phone and the appointments booked via text, we put them together, I've got about a 50% response rate. Two vendors that are crushing it right now for us. One that is unfortunately, I don't think he's taking more clients right now, but you can get on his waiting list, is Joel with Exclusive Digital. We had him on a couple of weeks ago with about 6 agents. They're crushing it. He's doing general life insurance ads. And then the other one, which I know is taking clients, this is a new partner of ours that I would say last week we did a top 10 AI responded appointments, and there was like 5 people in our top 10 who are all exclusively using this vendor, is Strong Point Digital. If you haven't heard of Strong Point Digital, you can go to strongpointdigital.com. I think it's like a red and a black circle, like bullseye looking logo. But we just met with a lot of their agents as well as the owner. Great. Josh and I have started to work them as well. I think I closed like 6,000 in their digital mortgage protection yesterday. So they're doing general life leads with an emphasis on either mortgage protection or final expense, and they're coming in around 10 to 13 bucks a piece. So if you're looking for a volume and quality, kind of a good mix, Strong Point Digital could be a good fit for you. Again, we're coming in between $10 and $13 on digital mortgage protection leads. So, if I spend $1,000, I get, 80 to 100 leads, and that's been, super positive because, I was spending $30 on trucker leads, and I looked yesterday and retail premium trucker lead is $70. I'm not spending $70 on any lead. No way. So to have some sort of a mix, I think StrongPoint Digital is, a fantastic partner for us. We had someone the other day that had over a 50% response rate on their mortgage protection leads, and we're seeing, 30, 40, 50% response rate on some of their general life and final expense leads. One of the things I really like about them is they're one of the more manageable management contracts. They're $800 a month and they do it weekly. So it's $200 a week for them to manage your ads. So I really like that about them. A lot of companies, hey, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, plus put your card on file. They're $200 a week, plus put your card on file. So super manageable for a new agent. I've got a new girl who's getting started, and I felt like, you know what? Normally I'd put her on aged leads, buy per lead. She's doing a pretty good job. I'm going to throw her on a management contract right away because of the way that they structure their management contract, and I can get her a high enough volume in leads. So that's my commercial for StrongPoint. Great real-time solution if you are working any type of general life insurance, final expense, or mortgage protection. But overall, guys, just in general, like there's lots of different lead types out there. It's all about intent. At the end of the day, all leads work. Again, it's not the lead, it's you. Yeah, it is you, but it's also the leads. It's also a little bit the leads. and a lot of the leads. When it comes to like what your goal is, if your goal is I want a high response rate, I want like I mean I'm assuming the audience here 98% of you guys are already on the Lead Champ platform. If you're on the Lead Champ platform, that means that you have value in automation. You have value in taking tasks that are typically very mundane that you do over and over and over again and having some of that stuff done for you. So you value efficiency at the end of the day. Like Lead Champ is a business management tool that's going to help you with the efficiency. And at the end of the day, like if you have Lead Champ with a bunch of garbage leads, like you're still going to just be doing as much work as before. Like you are, maybe even more work than you were doing without Lead Champ because now you're managing the garbage leads inside and outside of Lead Champ. So maybe it's more work than having Lead Champ, or than not having it. So yeah, our goal is to help you guys get real time leads. To work towards that, you will get the best experience with Lead Champ. If you're doing that, you will create the most efficiency. You will get the most time back that will allow you to sell more, that will allow you to be on the phone with more clients and spend less time trying to get a hold of clients. The time money pendulum, the difference between somebody who is on the money side of the time money pendulum, the person on the money side of the time money pendulum is someone who's spending more time selling insurance and training agents and less time getting a hold of clients. If you're on the time side of the time money pendulum, most of your time is spent getting a hold of people. And you can do that forever. You can do that for a little bit, but I promise you, if you're 3 years into the insurance industry, 4 years into the insurance industry, this is why like a lot of people like jump on like a lead champ because they're about to burn out and they need something that can just give them a little bit of time back, just a little bit, so they can spend more time doing the thing that they know makes them the money, which is selling and training agents. So that's mostly what I got. I'm gonna toss it back to Nick here for a couple announcements here at the end, and thank you guys for joining.